Disclosure.
Who remembers the good old adage that you've probably heard from your grandmother, your mother, your great grandmother? It's been passed down through the test of time. And the one saying is when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Now I know I've heard this over and over and over, and I've taken this one saying to like heart in ways that like I think that are almost obsessive in a way. And I rode with this for years. And then I came across another one. And this one I think spoke to me way more than the other one did. And it says, when someone falls in love with someone's flowers and not their roots, they don't know what to do when autumn comes. And I know they both kind of touch and explain the same thing, but I feel like the one where the person is showing you who they are is more of a temperate thing. It's more like, oh, that person is exposing themselves. Whereas like the other one is internal. Because why are you falling in love with the flowers and not looking at the roots? And it got me thinking about any type of relationship. And we mean friendships, we mean full blown, just like romantic relationships and all of those. And when you really break it down, it comes to the same caveat of how do you relate to another individual? Friendships, family dynamics, romantic relationships, they all follow the same ideal. You and this other person are taking two different lives, experiences, and ideals and putting them together. And do you guys really, really think about this and tell me if you've come across this and how often you've come across it? Do you ever notice that, like, who the person was when you first met them at some point in time, either being like, it could be 2 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, they change. They become very different than how they were. What was this nice, like, porcelain, untaped individual with no flaws and no deficiencies, or maybe flaws and deficiencies that were minor, now are starting to really show the cracks in the armor. This is when the mask comes off in any relationship. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, one, it's supposed to happen, and two, you have full control after it happens. And I wanted to touch on this one really quickly now. For anybody who doesn't know, this is your boy Trey from the Stone Disclosure. I'm trying to take a really different approach with the podcast, just trying new ideas and whatnot. And you guys are used to me doing these really like almost like 1 hour long episodes. And honestly, guys, it's not really attainable for me. It's a lot of sitting down and rifling through an idea that I think really can be condensed or even broken into separate parts to really just digest it a little bit differently. So I'm starting to really kind of embrace scaling back a little bit and making them shorter but more frequent. One, because it really helps with my schedule. I do have a full-time job outside of here and interest and a life, and I want to experience that as much as possible. Secondly, I am a parent, so finding the time to kind of do this where I'm sitting here for an hour really kind of takes away from all the other things I have going on. So I'm going to condense these a little bit more and be a lot more frequent with them, just a caveat to you guys. Now we got that out of the way. What is the mess that I'm talking about? Human beings are catered and designed to want to present the best version of themselves right off the bat. You can see it in the way you dress, in the way you take care of yourself, in the words that you say, and how you relate to people. Most individuals have an idea of who they want to be up here, and they do everything that they can to portray that. They may want to be the really nice person. They may want to be the best dressed person. They want to give this illusion that I take care of myself and I can present myself to the world. This is why the fashion industry exists to begin with. You are putting your representation out there right off the bat for the world to see. And normally, when people get away from that, is when we start to think, well, no, maybe something is wrong with them. Think of that person who comes in every day and takes no pride in their appearance. They're disheveled all the time. They're tired all the time. They don't really care what they wear. They got like holes and stains in their clothes. Like, you look at them and say, well, no, something's off with this individual. This is not normal behavior or practice for any one human being. And especially if it's a person who did take pride in themselves before and were really conscious of their image and how they came across. So you see that mask coming off. You see that facade that they've put together. And not to say that it's fake, but it's not really 100% them. This is the version of them they want to present with their idea of what they think their flaws are in mind. You will come across this all the time. You will deal with people like this every single day. My job, all I do is talk to people. All I do is meet different people all the time. And then at some point, I meet these people again because I have to do follow ups and all these types of things. I'm not going to tell you guys what I do, but this is the normal scope of my life. And usually, when I come across people at the beginning, sometimes they're great and they're nice and whatnot, and sometimes they're just like, yo, I don't want to talk to you, leave me alone. But notice that every initial interaction you have with somebody, for the most part, is pleasant. Does that mean that these are people you get along with? No. Does that mean that these are people you have similar interests with? No. Are these people going to be friends at any point in time? No. But what is the word that we always use? We are being cordial. Cordial is your mask. Cordial is, here's how I'm going to present myself for the general masses of people so that I don't come across and expose my true nature to who I am. Deep down inside, we are all flawed and we all have negativity that we carry with us. And being cordial is our way of saying, hey, I don't want you to see that side of me. When we become friends or we get a little deeper in our connection and our relationship, then maybe you'll get to see that. But at the beginning, I'm not going to be rude to you, and I don't expect you to be rude to me. This phase is normal. The mask is normal, and the coming off of the mask is also normal. It's part of the process. It's part of the journey of what a relationship truly is. The thing with the mask is you can't maintain it forever. You can't even maintain it for a long period of time. And when you see people who are obsessed with the mask, what do you normally see? They present themselves in this very, very positive light, and they don't really let anyone in close. They don't really let anyone see any of the underbelly. They don't want you interacting with people who know the underbelly. Their thing is like, I want to just have this nice little outlook. I want you to look at me as this perfect being where everything is perfectly fine and I never have any problems. But you can't maintain it forever. The facade is eventually going to fall because it is actually out of your nature. And you actively have to put in work to maintain the facade. So we really just sit here and we wait until it happens, and that's just the way that the cookie crumbles with relationships. You see it a lot in relationships, romantic relationships, where you hit a wall. You get to a point, sometimes it's 2 months, sometimes it's 6. It's usually between that 6 to 10-month range of the relationship where you start to look at things and be like, hey, it wasn't really like that before. Hey, they reacted different this time. Hey, I don't know anymore. And it's because the mask is starting to crumble. You don't want to put yourself out there and show somebody your flaws right off the bat. So you are going to do everything that you can to show the most positive version. And eventually, once they start integrating and being part of your life, that becomes harder and harder and harder to hide. So the question now becomes, what do you do? What do you do when the mask eventually falls? You now have the choice to decide what you want to do. Is this something that I still want to kind of continue on and see if it works? Or do I want to walk away from this? That mask is closer to the actual true nature of that person, and it's closer to the more authentic version of that human being. The difference is you went from seeing all the nice and positive and the sugar and spice and everything nice, And now you're seeing the grit and the grime and the dirt and all those other things. And sometimes that transition is just so sharp. You're like, oh man, like I don't really know what to do. Like, where did this come from? Like, everything was perfectly fine. And some people go internal and think, oh well, it must be something I did. Sometimes it really has nothing to do with you. But eventually, when it falls, you now have to decide: do I want to continue? And maybe we can work on things, or maybe I just accept you as you are, or do I walk away from this and say this is not for me? That is the only decision that you can make in that time frame. So then you get to thinking, like, if they know the mask is gonna fall, if they know that they're trying so hard to try to be this individual and try to put on this face and try to be this this perfect being that, like, you're gonna just love being around all the time. If they know they can't keep it up and eventually it's going to fall, why do they do it in the first place? Now we can deep dive into this and really dive into like childhood and upbringing and all of those things. And we'll do that a little bit later in the podcast. But we're going to just, on the surface, give you some ideas as to why, as much as they know it's going to fall, they still continue to do it. First off, like, they hope that by the time it happens, by the time the mask eventually falls and crumbles and everything, you will have liked them enough to stay regardless. So you would have been like, oh, you know what? Like, I've known John for so long. Like, John has said all these nice things to me. So, like, the pros are definitely outweighing the cons. So, even though, like, yeah, he's a little messed up, or, maybe he's a little wishy washy, or maybe he's an alcoholic, like, we're okay. Because, like, I like him enough that I'm going to hang. I'm going to stay regardless. That's, like, the main one that people may not actively think, but that's the idea. Like, you'll like me enough that you'll just accept whatever happens from that. Sometimes they hope that your intuition is less than their ambition. They feel like, oh, well, I'm smart, and they're not going to be smart enough to look into it to see what I'm really trying to do. They're not at the same level as me. I'm able to get away with this. I'm able to, even if the mask does fall off, I'll be able to transition it well enough that, like, regardless, like, they won't know. I think most of us are pretty smart people, and we can kind of see BS when it happens, but, to each their own. That's the way they think. Sometimes they hope that you see the value in the bond that you have with them over your own personal safety. Like, oh, like, I really enjoy hanging with X, right? I really think Phil is a cool guy. We have good moments together. We have great experiences together. Me and Sarah get along. Like, we're able to go over here and we're able to go over here. And she helped me move. And she gave me advice on my mom and da 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 da. And, like, the bond we have, even though, like, me and her may not be, like, really, really close or have this intricate, super awesome relationship, we have a bond where we supported each other. And that is enough for them to look and say, yeah, I'll tough it out. Let me give you an example. There are probably people in your life right now that you've known for a very, very long time. You've been friends with them forever. Um, so maybe even not that long, but let's just say you've known them for a very long time. You don't talk. You don't see each other. You maybe interact a couple times a year at best, hang out a couple times a year at best. But because you've been through so much together, you're like, they're going to stay. I'm going to keep them around. I've seen who they are. I've seen that, they may not value friendship the way I do. I've seen that maybe they retreat a lot and go into their own space and live their own life. And then when, life gets a little heavy or gets a little rough, then they come back and then they want to be friends again. Or they wait until their life is normalized and regulated, and then they want to pop back in and say, hey, man, haven't seen you in a long time. Like, yeah, haven't seen you in a long time. You've been MIA. But because now you've had a friendship with them and you've had this history and this track record of a friendship, I call it the friendship resume, because the resume is so deep with this one individual, as much as the mask was falling off a long time ago, you're like, you know what? But I appreciate the fact that we were able to still be in this friendship and have this bond over time, even though this bond is not really serving me. And even though it's not really adding anything to me, it's also not taking anything away. And it's almost like your credit history. You may have that credit card that you don't use for a very long time, but you don't want to close it because, like, the investors and the bankers are going to look at that history and say, hey, he's had a history of maintaining this, though you're not using it now. So it's almost like a bank. In those moments, when I say like you're putting your own safety at risk, like if they're not a person that's really going to like add to your life, then they could be a person who takes away. Or in all honesty, like just having that distance with that person may suck for you, right? You don't necessarily want that. You don't want that to be your dynamic. It does cause you some harm with the in and out, but hey, we've been friends for so long. This is how it is. We're going to keep it moving. Sometimes they also hope that like they learn you well enough to then now emulate the things that they think you find valuable. I've had friends who were on the completely opposite end of the spectrum with some of the ideas and stuff that I think about when I met them. And then over time, they start to learn, well, no, he values this and he values that. Let me give you an example. If you watch the news, whenever they're trying to push a narrative and they're trying to say, hey, like, you know, this is dangerous, what's one thing that they always go to? You got to protect your family, right? They know that every individual out there is going to want to protect their loved ones and care for their people, even with their own sacrifice. So, as much as they tell you, oh, it's dangerous to you, as soon as it's dangerous to your kids, your whole mentality is going to shift. They've learned what your values are. And now they emulate that and pretend we care about them too. So, because we also care about them and you care about them, like we have to do the same thing. People do this in friendships all the time. Have you ever had a friend where they came out and said, you know what? I think that oranges are stupid. And you're like, actually, I love oranges. Oranges are amazing. It gives you like vitamin C. It helps you fight off scurvy. And then all of a sudden, you know what? They're not that bad. I like oranges too. Those are those people that I talk about. You were on an opposite end of the spectrum. And now you've learned the value that I hold. And now you want to hinge to that value. Oh, you know what? Like sometimes like family's rough. Yeah, they're rough, but like, you know, they're family and you're gonna ride by them, right? They've been there, they help you out, they do all these things. Yeah, you know, maybe they're not that bad. Be careful with these people because they study you just as much as you probably study them, if not worse, and they will morph themselves into what they think you want to keep around for whatever reason, whether it's validation, whether they're really the enemy in disguise and they're trying to just, you know, get in close so they can take you out later. We don't know what their agenda is, but they will be whatever they think that you need them to be in order to be in that circle and kept around. Now the last one that like it's kind of a toss up. It's they think that you're going to look at emotion over logic or logic over emotion. And they feel like they can advocate for that well enough that even with all of the shadiness or the changes that you're starting to see, they can use that to your advantage. So these are people who it's like, well, you know, you've been friends with them for a bit and now you're starting to see the mask come off. And it's like, hey, man, like you used to hang out with us all the time. Now you're hanging out with these other people who you said you didn't like. Now all of a sudden you're cool with them and you don't hang out with us. Like, if that's where you want to be, that's fine. We have no problem with that. And it's like, why would you say that? Like, you know, like I can have other friends and it doesn't mean that like I'm not friends with you anymore and da 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 and they're thinking that they're gonna hit you with so much emotion that your like logical side is gonna just be like, okay, never mind, we cool. Like their emotion is gonna override your logical way of thinking or your thought process behind the initial ideas that you came up with or the perception that you got from this relationship. It could also be the vice versa, right? You could be like, you know what? It really made me feel bad that like we were actually really, really close. We used to talk all the time. We used to like have lunches together. And now, and like you were You were at odds with these people, and now they've accepted you, and I feel like you've just thrown me to the wayside. Well, why would you say that? Because, like, I just texted you like 2 days ago, and like the other day I was gonna do this, but then I didn't find you, and da da da. And now they hit you with all these like instances where they're like, oh, logically, it doesn't make sense for you to think that way, and you should put away that emotional aspect because logically, I've been here. Logically, I'm present. Logically, I'm providing this. And sometimes, honestly, your emotions are emotions. It hurts for you. Any change is gonna elicit some type of emotional response for you. If you saw someone every day and now you're seeing them once a week, obviously you're gonna feel some type of way, right? So what they try to do is overcompensate for the other. So they'll over bombard you with emotion, or they'll bombard you with logic to override the emotion you have or the logic that you're bringing forward. So those are some of the reasons why they do it. They feel like I can do that, and that way it keeps this person around me because I know when that mask falls, it may change their perception and they may want to cut. These are ways they try to kind of keep you in that loop. Now, as I said before, what do you do when this happens? And I know I said it very simple as like, oh, well, you choose to stay or you choose to go. But before you even get to that determination, there are a lot of things you can do to kind of really explore who the individual is and why the mask has come off in the first place. Now, one thing that I always say is like ask questions. You know what I mean? Look for clarity instead of just accepting whatever it is that's happening. Like try to understand why it's happening, where this change is coming from, and why that person thinks the way they think. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to seek clarity in a situation. And if the person doesn't want to answer these questions, then maybe they just don't have an answer, or maybe they don't care enough to dive into it because, like, maybe at that point, it'll expose more of them. I'm a firm believer that, like, if I find something a little off, I have no problem asking you about it. I've had friends before who legitimately would just routinely just go missing, just MIA, up, gone, never hear from them. And then they come back and they're like, hey, I missed you, and it's been such a crazy time, and I'm glad that you're back. And I'd be like, well, okay, great, I'm happy that you're here, but like, what happened? Like, where'd you go? Oh, well, like, life got crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know, and that's when you should like lean on your friends. Like, what happened? Like, I'm actually concerned. Like, what was so crazy that like you decided you couldn't lean on your friends, or keep your friendships, or not show up, or like, what was so crazy that like you were able, like, you missed the birthday, or you missed this, or like no one's heard from you? Like, it's okay to ask those questions for people to kind of clarify things, because at the end of the day, you don't want to make a decision without information. And asking these questions really is one of the best ways you're going to get that information. Sitting back and just being like, okay, well, now you're back and everything's great and da 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 da, it's going to happen again and again and again, because in this person's mind, this is the way they now programmed you to respond to things. And the only way you're going to break that cycle is getting that information that, may clarify why the person moves the way they move. Now, if I ask the question and I say, hey, listen, man, I really didn't appreciate when you just kind of vanished like that. Like, why couldn't you just tell me you were going through something? Oh, well, I don't want my friends to worry about me. Okay, cool. Now I get that. I understand that. Or why is it that every time you get into a relationship, you're gone? Like, no one sees you. Oh, well, I really just want to put all my effort into that and like learn that person as an individual. Fair enough. A little information is not going to hurt me. Where I get concerned is when I ask these questions and they're like, well, why are you in my business? Well, then don't come back. Like, you're trying to come back into my space. I should be able to protect my space as well, right? So main thing is like, just ask questions. Ask the questions you want to ask. Look for that clarity. Look for the answers. Try to fill those gaps, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening, and you may not necessarily want to jump to make a decision to say, I'm just going to cut this friendship off, without truly understanding like where the person is coming from and why they do what they do. If they don't give you answers, that's something. If they give you an answer, you process it how you will. Also remember that your time and your space has a value to it. You don't get your time back. You don't. Once that second is gone, it's gone. The 25 minutes that you guys have now been listening to this episode, you don't get those 25 minutes back. So I like to hope that like these 25 minutes added something to your life. But you don't get your time back. And sometimes we invest so much time into something and we're just hoping that it's going to change, and we're hoping that that person's going to come around and things are going to be different, everything's going to be great. Does anybody want to go to a club where everything is free? What kind of environment do you have in an establishment where there is no value to anything? Sounds like a cool idea, right? Showing up at the free club event is great, but it's not going to be security there. Anybody and their uncle can get there. And in all honesty, if you now have something that you can never get back, time is the most valuable thing you have. It's more valuable than any gold, any diamonds, anything, any type of money. When we go to work, we're exchanging our time that we will not get back for a dollar amount. Now, if we look at it that way, are you willing to exchange 30 years of your life for $20 an hour? Most people are going to say no. I could spend that time with my family. I can spend that time doing all these other things for myself. So I would want the biggest bang for my buck for that time that I'm putting in. That hour that I'm putting in, I would rather make $40 for it than $20 for it. If that's the case, and that's the way we're looking at life, and if you answered yes to that question, why are you allowing people to have your time and be in your space when they add nothing to improve your life? When they can't even give you an explanation as to why they take your time for granted. You have to set a value for it. You have to be able to say, no, if you're going to come into my world and you're going to take time out of my day, it has to be of value. Sometimes it's a charity. Sometimes it's, hey, you're going through something, I got you. But my idea is we have built a bond that if I ever now need you to sacrifice half an hour of your time to listen to me go through something, you'll be willing to do so because I was willing to do it for you. There's no expectation that you will, but the hope is that we built a bond to where that becomes a normal thing. So remember that your time and your space have value. Add a value to that. Because otherwise you're giving away for free. With that, you also have to hold a standard, right? There's certain things that you can't just sit there and be like, I'm okay with. I'll give an example for myself. I was very okay with people just going in and out. I'll say that 110%. I grew up a very nomadic life. Nothing was ever set in stone. You never lived in the same place for very long. So you're meeting new people all the time and then you're moving away. So in my mind, that was normal. It was normal for people to just be in and out because I'm never in one place at the same time. And I never thought to myself, well, you got a cell phone. We got transportation. We can drive. We can take a bus. There's so many different avenues we can have in order to maintain our friendship a certain way. So I had to learn over time, like, no, I have to have a standard here. I will show up for my people. I will show up for my friends. And if I can't, I'll let you know why I can't. So I need to hold that exact same standard myself. There is a bar, and you must reach that bar in order to remain. Think of a sports team. You got 15 players on a basketball team. 3 of them will probably never play unless the rest of them get injured. And that's even based on your position. Only 5 of them get to start the game. And only maybe 8 or 9 of them actually get minutes. That team has a standard. They want the best players in the best positions all the time because they want to win. So you should have a standard with the people that you bring in, and you should have a standard with how they remain in your life. You're going to have friends for a lot of different things. You're going to have connections for different things. You're going to have people who are gym enthusiasts. So your gym friends, yeah, you'll keep them around. You'll go to the gym with them. You have your friends who are like business minded and, oh, well, if I need business ideas, like they're there. You also have your friends who are just there. They're just there. They're just floundering. They don't really add anything. Similar to what I was saying, where they were able to learn you enough that they can emulate what you need. Same with the ones who are like, oh, I can be here long enough, and because our bond has so much history, then you just won't go anywhere. But you have to hold a standard in your life as to like, when do I let people in and how long do I let them stay? How long can they idle on this? Because if you're that player and you're the 15th player on that team, as soon as someone's better than you, you're gone. So hold a standard with your circle and your time. Also look for patterns. Patterns are important because patterns is the human psyche playing itself out. People say stuff all the time. I have people lie to me every day. I have people tell me, yeah, I'm going to do this 100%. Next time I talk to you, it's going to be different. Oh, I didn't see that, but now I know. And like, I'm going to fix that. And it's going to get better. Oh, I'm going to send this to you 110%. Promise. As soon as I get home. Every single day. 50% of these people lie to me. 50% at least. I've actually sat back and ran the statistics because I was bored. 50% of those people have lied. 50% of the time when I have that conversation with them again, whatever they said they were going to did not happen. And they'll always have an excuse. You know, this happened. Oh, I forgot. Oh, like my relative got sick. Oh, I had a long day. There's always an excuse because they're always able to formulate a reason because I'm not there to see it. So I can't say yes or no. That's why holding that standard is important because for me, it's like, well, you know what? You said you were going to do it. You did it. So now I have to do X. But why I say look for patterns is what you'll start to realize is those same people, given time, will do it again and again and again because their standard permits them to follow that pattern, whereas my standard would not. There are people who are routinely late all the time. I used to be guilty of this. I'm not even going to try to like hate on people or anything like that, especially when it comes to work. But there are people who are like, if I'm meeting people or I'm hanging out with like friends or I say I'm going to do something at a certain time, I'll do it. But like for some things, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But there are some people who will legitimately be late all the time, every single time. Doesn't matter how much time you give them. Doesn't matter if you let them set the timeline. If you go to them and say, hey, how long do you need to get ready? When should I come and get you? When should we meet there? They will always give you a time and they will never, ever, ever stick to that time. But every time you talk to them, they're going to say, oh, it's going to be better next time. I'm going to start earlier. I'm going to start doing the process earlier. I'm going to not have so many things on my plate like leading up to it. Now, what you look at is, well, then the next time it happens, does this incident? Are you late the next time we plan something? You've now told me you're not going to be. The next time, are you? The time after, are you? And it's if it's the same thing and the same pattern keeps happening, they're not taking in what's going on. They're running their cycle that they're used to by the standard that they've created for themselves. Because as long as you keep showing up, they don't ever have to change anything, and they're going to continue to just do it over and over and over. Now, one thing that I think a lot of people avoid doing is challenging the changed behavior. It's one thing for the person to like be like, yeah, you know, like I'm not going to be late anymore. And then like the first couple times they're not, and that's great. Or better yet, like they had this idea in their head of how things should go, and now they've changed their perception of whatever it is. Let's say it's the color blue. I've looked at it and I think it's the color blue, and they looked at it and then they said it was purple. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, you know what? It's blue. I'm seeing blue now. Yeah, like it's blue. Challenge that shit. Just be like, why? Why did that change? Like, what happened that this changed? Let's take the late person, for example. Now they're showing up on time. I'm like, yeah, well, this is great. I love the fact that now you're like, you know, showing up on time and I don't have to wait and all these things. But like, what changed? Like, how did you pull this off? Because like before you were late all the time, and now you're like on time. Like, this is great. Like, how did we get here? And they may be like, yeah, you know what? I just realized like I waste a lot of time on like social media while I'm like getting ready, or I wait till the last minute because I like the pressure of it getting ready, or I put all the other things away that I had to do to like commit to this. There's nothing wrong with challenging it. There's nothing wrong with asking like, okay, well, what caused the change? In relationships, I think we avoid this the most because we really don't want to hurt a person. And I mean like intimate relationships and like really, really intense friendships. We don't want to lose the person. So we tend to overlook this. All of a sudden, we're good and everything's great in our relationship. And now there's this shift. And now we talk less. Or you make more excuses as to why we can't see each other. Or things we were doing before you don't like doing anymore. And now you like doing the opposite. If you have somebody who like when you met them they were very big on like, oh, I like to go on like hikes and walks and I want to be outside and I want to do all this cool stuff, and then all of a sudden all they want to do is go clubbing, like, what, where did that change happen? Why not challenge it? Why not look into that and say, well, why did this change? Even for a positive behavior, like I wasn't taking care of my health before, I was eating like shit, and now I'm eating way better and I'm making healthier meals. Like, oh, okay, well, why did you change? Like, what happened? What did you see that made you want to just make this transition? Ask it. There's no problem in challenging a change or a change behavior. It's good to find out why, because now that could be a motivating factor for other things, and you could really get an idea of where that person's head is at. For example, if they make the change in their diet and all of a sudden they're eating healthier and you ask why and you challenged it, and they were like, yeah, well, I saw this thing and they were really talking about like how your health declines really fast, and I'm getting to that point in time, so I want to be as healthy as possible. Cool, done, awesome. It goes into the first one where I said, you know what, like, ask for clarity. The challenge is asking for clarity. Don't be afraid to challenge a change, because knowing why is just as important, because now you can understand, or you can have a general idea of if it's going to stick or if it's going to change. Now, the last thing I always say is like, you got to try to understand that their world looks very different than yours. How I may see being punctual versus how somebody else sees being punctual is strictly based on their upbringing. If there was never any need for urgency, if there was never any understanding of anything being important, and if somebody didn't really have a lot of responsibilities in life, they tend to just think time is just, it's all good. Or they are around people that are like never going to check them for being late. Never going to say, hey man, you were late. And I really don't like that, because like I work so hard to get here on time, and I really would have expected that, because now we're 10 minutes behind, 15 minutes behind. I don't look at that person and think, oh, you're a horrible human being. I just look at them and say, well, you clearly look at this situation very differently than I do. And that's fair. We didn't grow up the same way. We didn't have the same upbringing. We probably didn't have a lot of similar experiences. But at the end of the day, understanding that your look at things will be different than my look on things kind of gives me an idea of like, okay, well, how will they show up in X scenario then, or Y scenario, before we even get to that scenario. So understand that like just everyone looks at things differently. I've dealt with a lot of people who have Alzheimer's and dementia, and as frustrating as it gets for the people who are caring for them, I always say you have to understand that they're seeing all of this differently than you. I have a son who's on the spectrum for autism, and as much as he does some things, and I look at him and I'm like, but why? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why is this what you're choosing to do? I have to remember he views it way differently than me. I may look at this bag and think like, oh, it's just a bag. It's being used to carry something, and we're going to put stuff inside it and keep it moving. And I'll give a funny story. Uh, I was driving. We were driving one day, and I had like grocery bags in the back. And I should have led with this before I was making the analogy. I had a grocery bag in the back, and as we're driving, I see him like playing with it. And I'm like, I don't care. It's a bag. Just playing with it. Not a big deal. And it's one of those felt ones, like the ones you get at the grocery store. And I look behind me, and he puts it on his head, like covering his whole freaking head. I'm on a highway, and there's like police driving by, and the first thing that went to my head is like, they're gonna see this, and they're gonna be like, yo, this guy kidnapped this child, and he has a bag over his head so he can't see where he's going. So I'm in freaking panic mode, and I'm like, what are you doing? Take that off your head. And he's not budging. Like he's laughing. I can hear him laughing under this bag while I am going through like high degrees of stress and anxiety, terrified that a cop's gonna pull me over and question me as to why I have this kid in the back seat and there's a bag over his head. I looked at this bag as just a regular bag, a shopping bag. I'm gonna put groceries in it and keep it moving. He looked at this as entertainment. He looked at this bag as like, oh, this is something fun to do. And I couldn't get mad because I was like, that's just how you see it. And you don't use the bag to carry things because you don't necessarily carry things in these types of bags. You have your backpack. But I do, so I know like this is what you use it for. So like when we're really thinking about like that mask coming off, we also have to remember that like, they're gonna look at life differently. So them having different outlooks of things is normal, and we shouldn't really put too much emphasis or stress on it. It's just people. It's how they view stuff. I hope I did not waste 40 minutes of everyone's time today. I really just found this nice little block of time, and I thought like, oh, like this quote that I said at the beginning really spoke to me, and I wanted to kind of just touch on it a little bit and help people deal with that transition of the mask falling off. Now, I want to go back to just telling you to remember your value, right? Your time and your space is value. And I want to leave everybody with a quote. This is a proverb. I think it's a Jewish proverb. I could be wrong. But it says, don't sell the sun to buy a candle. When that mask comes off, do the work to figure out if the person under the mask is truly worth keeping or not. Protect your heart.